Imagine being one of the best cyclists in the world, feeling the wind in your face as you conquer mountains and cross the finish line like a champion. But what happens when immense pride drives you to challenge something bigger, something divine? This is the story of a cyclist who, blinded by his ego, decided to face God and was punished for it. Our protagonist is Andrés Velasco, an elite cyclist known for his impressive skill in the mountains and his fierce determination. From a young age, Andrés dreamed of reaching the top of world cycling, and he did. But success began to corrupt his soul. He no longer competed just for the love of the sport, but to prove that he was invincible, even before God. I have trained harder than anyone. Not even God himself can stop me. Over time, success went to his head. Andrés began to lose humility and respect for others. He saw himself as a god of cycling. And that's when the first warning sign occurred. In one of the most important races of his life, on a climb he dominated, his bike failed. A sudden storm appeared, darkening the sky. Andrés, furious, shouted to the sky, "This is your fault. You have no power over me." Cycling was not just a competition for Andrés, it had become his altar of sacrifice. And, like any altar, it required a test. Andrés, defiant in the face of adversity, began to curse the forces of nature, and worse still, God himself. Journalist, Andrés, how do you feel after that unexpected storm? Andrés, that was nothing more than a petty test. Not even God can stop me. I am destined to always win. What Andrés didn't know was that he had unleashed something beyond the physical. Every time he trained, something went wrong. His once strong body began to fail him inexplicably. His always reliable bike suffered unusual breakdowns. It was as if a curse had come upon him. Andrés, this doesn't make sense. I've trained harder than ever. Why is this happening to me? Andrés' pride had reached such a point that he couldn't see the warning hanging over him. God doesn't punish for pleasure, but Andrés had crossed a dangerous line. Andrés decided to face his destiny once again. Entered in one of the most important races of his career, he was determined to prove that neither God nor fate could stop him. But that day, something changed.
Extended text analysis, beyond pride and punishment. The story you present is an allegory rich in symbolism, which transcends the simple story of an arrogant cyclist. Through the figure of Andrés Velasco, we explore universal themes such as the relationship between man and divinity, the consequences of excessive pride, and the importance of balance in life. Additional themes and analysis. The deviant hero's journey. The narrative follows a classic structure of the hero's journey, but with a crucial deviation. Andrés, instead of facing his inner fears and growing spiritually, is confronted by an outside force that represents his own arrogance. Nature as a moral force. The storm, the bike breakdowns, and the unexplained injuries are more than just random events. They represent nature manifesting to correct the imbalance caused by Andrés's pride. Nature, in this context, acts as a moral force that seeks to restore order. The role of faith, although not explicitly explored, faith plays an underlying role. Andrew, in challenging God, is actually questioning his own faith in something higher. His punishment can be interpreted as a call to reconnect with the spiritual. The request for forgiveness, although not mentioned in the provided excerpt, the story likely culminates with Andrew acknowledging his mistake and seeking forgiveness. This element is essential to completing the narrative arc and highlighting the importance of humility and redemption. Additional lessons. The balance between ego and humility. It is critical to find a balance between self-confidence and humility. Excessive pride can lead to blindness and self-destruction. The importance of gratitude. Success and achievements should be received with gratitude, not arrogance. Recognizing that success is the result of multiple factors, including luck and support from others, is essential to maintaining perspective. Connection to something greater. The story suggests that there is a higher power guiding our destinies. Respecting and connecting with this force can bring peace and purpose to our lives. Questions to reflect on. How can we apply the lessons of this story to our own lives? What are the signs that our pride is growing too much? How can we cultivate humility and gratitude in our lives? What is your opinion on the idea that nature has a moral purpose? In conclusion, the text invites us to reflect on human nature, the power of pride, and the importance of maintaining a connection to something greater than ourselves. Through the story of Andrés Velasco, we witness the consequences of defying the laws of nature and divinity. Would you like to explore any aspect of this analysis in greater depth? For example, we could discuss the symbolic representation of the storm, or analyze how this story relates to other narratives that explore similar themes. The storm as a symbol. The storm that hits Andrew during the race is much more than a simple meteorological event. It symbolizes internal chaos. The storm reflects the internal chaos brewing in Andrew's soul due to his excessive pride. Nature's wrath. It represents nature's wrath at human arrogance. Nature, seen as a balancing force, responds to the imbalance caused by Andrew's pride. Divine judgment. In many cultures, storms are associated with the wrath of the gods. In this case, the storm can be interpreted as divine judgment for Andrew's lack of humility. Comparison with other narratives. This story has similarities with many other stories throughout history, such as the myth of Icarus. Like Icarus, Andrew flies too close to the sun, in this case, the divinity, and suffers the consequences of his arrogance. The parable of the sower. In this biblical parable, seed that falls on rocky ground fails to take deep root and dries up. Similarly, Andrew's pride prevents his success from having a lasting impact. Aesop's fables. Many fables, such as the one about the frog who wanted to be as big as an ox, warn of the dangers of pride and vanity. Additional lessons and questions. The importance of balance. The story reminds us to seek a balance between our personal achievements and our connection to the natural and spiritual world. The role of community. How does Andrew's community, other cyclists, coaches, fans, influence his development as a person and his downfall? Redemption. What steps would Andrew have to take to redeem himself and regain his humanity? What would be the role of the community in this process? The nature of punishment. Is Andrew's punishment fair? Are there other ways the same lesson could have been learned? Exploring deeper. We can look at the story from different perspectives. Psychology. What psychological mechanisms explain Andrew's transformation from a successful cyclist to an arrogant and destructive man? Philosophy. How does this story relate to philosophical concepts such as virtue, vice, and happiness? Theology. What implications does this story have for our understanding of the relationship between man and God? What would you like to explore next? We can delve deeper into any of these topics or explore a new direction. Some suggestions. A detailed analysis of a secondary character. What role does the journalist play in the story? What does his reaction to Andrew's arrogance reveal? A comparison with another literary work. How does this story compare to a novel or film that explores similar themes? A reflection on the role of sport in society. How does sport influence the formation of our personality and values? I propose to explore a more psychological approach. A psychological analysis of the story, The Fall of a Champion. By analyzing the story of Andrés Velasco from a psychological perspective, we can identify several mechanisms and processes that contribute to his downfall. The superiority complex, Andres, upon reaching a high level of success in cycling, develops a superiority complex. He believes that his abilities place him above others, even higher forces such as God. The fear of failure, behind the facade of arrogance, Andres may feel a deep fear of failure. By challenging God, he could be trying to prove to himself that he is invincible and that he will never experience defeat. The loss of perspective, unmeasured success can lead to a loss of perspective. Andres becomes obsessed with his career and loses sight of what really matters in life. The projection, by blaming God for his problems, Andres is projecting his own insecurities and fears onto an external force. The importance of ego. The ego plays a crucial role in this story. The ego is the part of our personality that seeks self-affirmation and recognition. When the ego becomes too large, it can cloud our judgment and lead us to make destructive decisions. Psychological lessons. The importance of humility. Humility is a virtue that allows us to recognize our limitations and appreciate the contributions of others. Managing success. Success must be managed carefully. It is important to maintain a balanced perspective and not allow success to go to our heads. Searching for meaning. We all search for meaning in life. When we do not find this meaning in our personal achievements, we may look for it in the wrong places, such as challenging higher forces. Questions to reflect on. How can we identify the signs of an inflated ego in ourselves and others? What strategies can we use to keep our ego in check? What is the role of psychology in understanding human actions? Other perspectives to explore. A sociological approach. How do social and cultural expectations influence the formation of Andres' personality? A philosophical approach. How does this story relate to philosophical concepts such as freedom, destiny, and the meaning of life? What do you think of this psychological approach? Would you like to explore any other perspectives? Possible additional questions to further this analysis. Do you think Andres could have recovered from his fall if he had received psychological help? How does sports culture influence the formation of personalities like Andres? What role does religion play in the construction of our identity and in our search for meaning? I am at your disposal to continue exploring this topic together. An atheist approach to the story of Andres Velasco. If we look at this story from an atheist perspective, we can reinterpret the events without resorting to divine or supernatural explanations. Instead of divine punishment, we can look for psychological, social, and natural explanations for the events. Alternative explanations. Coincidence and causality. The unfortunate events that Andres experiences can simply be attributed to a series of unfortunate coincidences or to natural causes. The failure of his bike, the storm, and his injuries could be the result of factors such as wear and tear, adverse weather conditions, or even bad luck. Psychological pressure. The intense pressure that Andres puts himself under to maintain his champion status may have affected his mental health. Stress, anxiety, and obsession with success could have weakened his immune system and predisposed his body to illness or injury. Superstition and self-fulfillment. Andres' belief in a higher power that is punishing him may have created a self-fulfilling prophecy. By believing that something bad is going to happen to you, you may have subconsciously sabotaged your own success. Lessons from an atheist perspective. The importance of science. Science can offer rational explanations for natural phenomena and events in our lives. Individual responsibility. Each individual is responsible for his or her own actions and the consequences they generate. Resilience. Despite challenges, human beings are capable of overcoming adversity and building meaningful lives. Questions to reflect on. How can we reconcile the idea of a purposeless universe with the search for meaning in life? What role does psychology play in understanding the human experience? How can we build sound ethics without resorting to religious beliefs? Comparison with a religious perspective. When comparing this atheistic approach with a religious perspective, we can see that both offer different frameworks for interpreting the world and making sense of the human experience. While the religious perspective seeks divine explanations for events, the atheistic perspective seeks natural and rational explanations. What other questions would you like to explore from an atheistic perspective? Some suggestions. How does culture influence the formation of religious and non-religious beliefs? What is the role of community in constructing a sense of purpose and meaning in life? How can we foster respectful dialogue between people with different beliefs? This atheistic approach invites us to reflect on the nature of reality, the human condition, and the role of science in our understanding of the world.